It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Hey, I get it. You've worked really hard to build up your business, and it's doing great. So great that you need help now. The most important thing for your business is to hire the right people to support it. So how can you find amazing candidates quickly? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. And with Sponsored Jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, Sponsored Jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. And it's one of the largest databases of job seekers, too, giving business owners access to a wide range of candidates. And one of the things I love most about Indeed is the job alerts feature. I get notified when new candidates apply. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook. This is a unique episode that is coming out sort of as an emergency broadcast, if you will, from myself and my COO, CFO, Matt Gartland. We were talking the other day on the team as we've been trying to navigate the crazy times that are happening right now related to the virus that's taken over the world and has left people in quarantine, has left businesses struggling, has left people struggling. And Matt and I wanted to come on today to talk from very much a business standpoint, how one might be able to navigate these turbulent times. And so Matt and I are both talking about finances, mental health, health of the business, how to discuss and be open and transparent with team, how to plan for the future, and also what opportunities this does open up, which it might not be something that might be immediately apparent to some of us. So I'm going to skip the regular intro. This is not going to affect actually our regular lineup. It is an emergency episode that's popping up for you because Team SPI, we all care for you. And Matt and I also, at the end, you'll hear us talk about potentially doing this a little more. I'd love to hear from you on Instagram at Pat Flynn or Twitter at Pat Flynn to see what else we might be able to help you with here. We have a lot of resources at hand, and the business is doing okay, but we've definitely taken a hit, and you'll hear about those a little bit here in this show. And we just wanted to do this for you as some support. Also on the show notes page, which we will link to at the end, there are some resources that are available to you as well that we have sort of opened up for you at this time that we found out elsewhere on the internet to help you with your business. And so that's coming at the end. For right now, I'm just no intro music. We're just going to go right into the interview. Here is myself and Matt Gartland, my Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer for SPI Media. Here he is. Hey, Matt, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, glad to be here, buddy.
So interesting times right now, obviously, with what's going on in the world. How are you and your family doing before we get started here?
We're good. Thank you for asking. It's surreal. It's unprecedented. It's confusing. But I'm grateful, as I know you are, as so many of us are, that are able to leverage the internet in different ways to help people to run businesses. So we're good. We're prioritizing health and sanity first, and staying as locked down as we can at home and doing good stuff as a family. So it's good.
Yeah, an update from my end for everybody. We're doing pretty much the same thing, kind of hunkered down, obviously trying to keep the kids busy. April has been working on being stay-at-home mom for a while now, so she's not used, or so she is used to having the kids at home, but not used to having to create curriculum for them since they're home from school now, and we want to continue to educate them. Anyway, it's a crazy time for everybody. We're all safe. Everybody who I know, especially my parents, April's parents, are safe too, and hopefully for those of you listening, you guys are safe and doing well, and hopefully keeping those spirits high as well. But Matt, you and I, we chatted earlier about wanting to come on and just share a bunch of things, sort of off the top of our heads, related to just how we can help and things that we're doing in our business to sort of help with kind of keeping things going, and that includes everything from finances to team to just emotions and all that stuff. Give everybody a preview of sort of the stuff that we're going to cover here in this episode today.
Yeah, I think we're going to navigate in and out of culture, finance with emphasis on cash, obviously, and cash flow, to communication with our team. That certainly is infused with culture, but how we leverage communication and be a conduit of communication with all the news and policy announcements that are coming out in the press to our teams, or even through to a lot of you listening. So communication is definitely a big factor. And let's certainly not underscore health, whether that's mental health, physical health, emotional health, as all of these dynamics are unfolding. So, yeah, I think it's going to kind of be atomic, and like molecules will be bouncing, against a lot of this stuff, because it's at this point all intertwined. And as I think about, Pat, how we're, leading this business and being sensitive to all these different dynamics, it's really, a moment where the inner workings of a business kind of enter the spotlight where they normally, or maybe more in the shadows or behind the curtain, right? Mm-hmm. But now, thoughts on, okay, is this the right, expense to make? What are revenues looking like, and how are revenues going to take an impact? How's the team feeling, and especially with remote teams, and a lot of our team is remote, how do we help them emotionally and be there for them? So a lot of the inner workings that, as I care a lot about, but sometimes doesn't get discussed as much as maybe marketing stuff. It's now front and center, and it's a good time to talk about this.
Yeah, and thank you for coming on. And for those of you listening, you might remember Matt's spot on the show prior to this, talking a lot about business fundamentals and sort of all the quote-unquote non-sexy stuff that is in and around business. And a lot of the stuff that you're going to hear today is likely going to be along those same lines, but very necessary, as Matt said, during this moment in time. So hopefully we can all be there to help you, and we're here for you. And this kind of takes me and reminds me, before we dive into a lot of the minor, sort of tiny, minute, but very important details. This definitely feels very similar to 2008 in terms of the market and the recession. And for me, back then, a lot of I was working as an architect, and I got laid off. And the number one thing that I wish was different around that time, that would have clearly helped me mentally, was just a little bit of transparency and openness and honest feedback and what was going on from my higher ups. I did not receive that. I was always told to remain hopeful. I was always told to, that everything was going to be okay. And of course, when people tell you that, and then it kind of is not that, you get very upset. And I think that didn't serve me when I could have been potentially a little bit more prepared after getting laid off. And, I had to figure out how to get out of a dark space for a while mentally, because I just wasn't prepared for anything in my head. I don't know if you've ever had any similar experiences, Matt, of thinking things are going to go one way and then all of a sudden it gets changed. But I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. Have you ever had to navigate any of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. While I did not find myself in the exact same circumstances as you did, Pat, in 2008, I did find myself in a career change really in the wake of that. I was able to be a little bit fortunate with having some measure of influence and decision-making on my own timing, but I left a very a high-powered corporate job where I was making a very healthy six figures. I was on a leadership development track in the IT space in the healthcare sector. And especially in the wake of the immediacy of the Great Recession, things weren't good. And, Pat, I think what you're talking to about the higher ups and the communication from the higher ups, trust is the word. And if they're not being transparent or authentic, or they're, overly hopeful in a measure that doesn't come across right, doesn't feel right, and then it comes out, in fact, later that it's kind of smoke and mirrors, like you damage trust. So I found myself in a spot where I did make a proactive choice on my part, but I didn't know exactly what was going to happen in starting a freelance career that turned into everything that it did. So yeah, you deal with a lot of uncertainty. You deal with a lot of fear about the unknowns, and you hope that you can find a community of people to engage with, to trade ideas, and be honest with in terms of feelings, so that you can get informed, make good decisions, and be supported as you navigate very turbulent waters.
So how might you recommend a person who maybe has a team in this turbulent time, how might they best communicate things with their team and perhaps not even know all the answers? How would you go about doing that? How often, how frequent, what would you say? And how have we tackled that?
Great question. Yeah, great question. I can maybe start with just reflecting on how we have handled it so far with our team, and certainly being very sensitive to the fact that probably many of you listening, your team dynamics will differ. Maybe you do have employees. We do have employees. I don't know maybe how acutely we've mentioned that. But a number of us are on staff, on payroll. We have benefits. We have 401k programs. It's very serious stuff. It's very exciting to be able to offer that, right? And to be able to offer our employees, that measure of stability. And it's that stability that gets kind of shaken, right? Or at least put into potential question in very crazy moments like this. But you may not have employees. Your team may just be one or two people that's on a 1099 basis. So just kind of, I guess, being sensitive and respectful of that heading into this. Mm-hmm. Number one is, deal in facts as much as you can. So, deal with numbers, deal with, policies that have been potentially announced. Again, a lot of the work from home recommendations at a state level, or even a lot of national stuff here in the United States, probably don't communicate anything, or at least emphasize really anything until a decision has been made and it's certain, versus a lot of the speculation that is often covered, at least in the press, the national press, in the lead up to eventually, sort of a policy decision. So, Pat, you and I waited a couple days. We're recording here on Wednesday, the 18th. Obviously, the end of the prior week was really crazy. We waited until Monday before at least putting out sort of a written, kind of statement to our team. And I think that was the right move, in retrospect. And I think the team feels the same way, where we've distilled kind of what's going on to the extent that, decisions were made that would, impact our business from, national or state agencies. And then we're able to have a little more breathing space ourselves to reflect on what this might mean to the business and not rush something out there. So, for example, as a part of our business to our employees, we have a PTO policy for paid time off. And we made a decision that we would not need to change anything there. People have PTO requests that were submitted and that were approved for later in the year. And unless they electively chose to change those plans, we weren't going to force them to do so. So that's like one detail that we were able to communicate and stand behind that, because if you put something out there and you rush it, or maybe it's a half truth in it and that gets exposed later, again, you damage trust with your team. So even if your team is, again, a contracted workforce, 1099 base, still communicate with the same measure of empathy and the same measure of just care for them. They're going to potentially have questions around, your a working contract with you. If they're 1099, don't rush anything out there unless you are absolutely certain that you can, maintain that contract. Or if you do have to, adjust the terms or whatnot, to that contract, do your due diligence first on the numbers, deal with the facts, and communicate the facts when you have them.
Yeah, and I also appreciated how, in this messaging that we had, that you sent to the team, we came from also what our intentions are as well. Like, we intend not to, at least in this moment in time, or we don't anticipate having to, at least with what we know right now, changing or adjusting payroll. We never said we're never going to do that, but we just, as long as people understand what our intentions are and that we have their best interest sort of as top of mind, then that I think is what people are mostly concerned about. Just that at least we're doing everything we can right now, and thankfully having an online business, we're a little bit less susceptible to things as opposed to on the other end, somebody who has a restaurant at this moment in time is going to be likely taking a huge hit because just of the mandates and not being allowed to or being able to even have customers. I mean, what are you going to do? Yet you still have rent to pay and a lease and whatnot. So I definitely feel very grateful for being in the online space to have that ability to sort of not have a lot of those things that other people would normally have to pay for in a situation like this, where it wouldn't be very difficult to have some money coming in, which takes me to sort of okay, revenue. Revenue is going to be affected across most industries, and we are taking a hit as well. Obviously, we were actually in the middle of a launch we had planned for months, right? And timing, you can't time anything like this, really. We were in the middle of a launch for Power Up Podcasting, our podcasting course. We had planned it for about 6 months and, rolling it out. And we had a whole 3 video series leading up to the launch. The launch opened and it was going pretty well at the start. And then, as you know, things change very rapidly here in this environment. And by the 3rd day, it was just very, very clear that, we have to reassess our original plan and make some changes. And that was pretty difficult. How do you, Matt, being more on the CFO side of things, react to having to make sort of a mid-launch sort of financial change like that? And what does that do to sort of the whole business in general, having to do that?
A good bit. There's a number of things to potentially unpack there. The first thing, though, is as much as I have already emphasized to deal in facts and numbers, people are scared. They have questions. There are uncertainties. So making the decisions that we did concerning that promotion, Pat, and we got our open letter out, to our audience on Friday, and we included this, that like, hey, we're going to pull back our marketing. We understand that people are distracted and rightfully so, and want to be paying attention to news and doing other things that are, a little probably more meaningful to their family versus, potentially paying attention to, a podcasting course, however awesome, it is, and it is. So like we made a decision, and we knew that it would have, an impact, to revenue, to actually scale back our marketing, to still not cancel the promotion, but to just acknowledge like, hey, like we feel what you guys feel, and we want to support that. So we selectively, consciously, pulled back our marketing, and it did reflect in the numbers. To one of your earlier comments, we absolutely are grateful that the nature of our business dynamics, our business model, is one that we are reasonably well insulated from a lot of the economic carnage, that is happening and is ravaging restaurants and bars and the hotel industry and events. And then we might come back around to that, Pat, concerning you and concerning friends that put on, in-person events and speakers that go to events. And that's a big part of the business model. So, for us, we're humbled and we're grateful in this moment. The promotion specifically that we're talking about, we were sub 50% in terms of our goal. And we were very confident heading into that, all of us, that we would actually hit that goal. So, to have, greater than 50% attrition, on revenue is not small, which then kind of gets into just another aspect of, financial vision and preparedness and strategy even, which is you don't really know, what is going to happen. And certainly this crisis is unprecedented in its magnitude, at least, within our lifetime. So no one could have predicted this, not really. But, we are good stewards of cash. We have a good cash, liquidity position. I probably, hammer that, Pat, to you maybe more than I should, but hopefully in moments like this, it pays off, right? Yeah. So like we're okay. Our cash flow is strong, and I've remodeled that out, as you know, for the entirety of actually Q2, so all the way through June. And we know that based on our future endeavors that we're going to be okay. And that's a really reassuring position, to be in, you and me trying to lead this thing, but then also be able to turn that around. And again, as we've already mentioned, like be able to communicate with facts, to our team of like, hey, it stinks right now. It's rough, but but we're going to be okay, and there's no crippling effect to our business, and it does all the way come back to cash. So I'll pause there, but we could talk all day about cash.
Yeah, I mean, let's say, for example, somebody is listening to this, Matt, and very candidly just does not have that good of a position, maybe not so much cash reserves for their business, and clients are sort of backing out of their contracts or just are unable to pay at this point, and cash is starting to be a little bit of a stressor. What might one do in that situation, or what would you do?
Yeah, there's a couple things, if not several things to consider, and these will vary in terms of their, I think, relevancy, based on someone's business model. So look at the contracts, number one, and not that you want to get into a negative or contentious legal discussion with clients or vendors, but sometimes, hopefully, contracts have good provisions for exits or clauses such as force majeure clauses for kind of acts of God and unpredictable catastrophic events. And Pat, if it's fair to share in this moment, that's something that's even swirling around the event space. And when people make commitments to venues and different aspects of putting on an in-person sort of an experience, does that clause actually help in terms of recouping some capital, some cash that's been already committed to something, and you can recoup that. So that's one way to potentially explore getting some cash back, back into your bank account, right? Back into your cash flow. So that's number one, is to kind of scrutinize your contracts, as they stand, given your business model. Number two is to get potentially creative with a derivative sort of an offering. So if you're selling an information product, that's maybe straightforward. You can do some different sales. You can pull back. You and I are considering doing some different things with, our collection of courses. If you don't have those assets in your speaker, could you potentially quickly create, an online course or a derivative of a service-based thing that, probably isn't as high ticket as doing, a service offering, but it could open up a new revenue pipeline to offset some of, the lost revenue, and that might be, I guess, a reality, that you're dealing with right now. Number three is business insurance. If you happen to have business insurance, now would be a good time to kind of pull out that policy again and look through it. We do have business insurance here at SPI. We're not actively going to lean on that, but sometimes you can find measures of relief there. So, look at that, and it's a good reason why you sometimes have business insurance. Number four is probably a premature concept. So again, in my claim of dealing in facts, I'm probably skirting this one, but there's a lot of conversation, and it's getting discussed in the news, about an economic relief package being debated in Washington with a lot of focus on small business owners. To my understanding, again, it's Wednesday afternoon, Eastern, and we're recording this, and no deal has been totally struck. But I'm paying attention to that, as our CFO, to understand, what relief measures might be available to us as a small business, provided from the government. Those things aren't available yet, but you can darn well be sure that I'm paying attention to that. And if we should need it, or if it would be of value, to any of you listening, Pat, I think it'd be actually pretty instructive and helpful to cascade some of that information through, so that people could potentially lean on those relief measures.
Yeah, I mean, anything that comes up, Matt, that you find, you were going to let me know, obviously, and I was going to hopefully let everybody know on Twitter, Instagram, and any other places where we have a voice for that, for sure. And then likely, I can imagine you and I getting on a call again and posting it up here as sort of a emergency podcast episode in between all of our regular numbered episodes, in case anything new happens. And, perhaps this is just sort of a regular conversation that we have in post amongst all this craziness, and to hopefully give some relief to people and just share some of our ideas that we're sort of active on, that you could use should you choose to use them.
Exactly.
To continue your list of items, there has been a lot of amazing developments in several different niches where people are stepping up to offer help to those who are in need. Everything from free things that were normally things that you would pay for, to like straight up just offering cash for those in need. And so I don't know what niche you are in particular, for those of you listening. But for example, ConvertKit, a company that I advise, I'm an affiliate for, love them, email service provider run by Nathan Barry. He and the team over there, the leadership team, Barrett Brooks, many others, decided that they were going to do a $50,000 creator fund where they were just going to offer for those who applied, essentially just some additional cash for creators who are looking for some support for things like groceries, rent, what have you. I am just really excited that was the case. Buzzsprout is offering some special deals for people who want to use this time to start a podcast, for example, as well. And I would imagine that there might be places where, in your space that you might be able to go find or even ask for help if needed in this dire situation. Have you noticed? I also think I saw Adobe was offering a couple months for free for their creative service. What's it called? Their Creative Cloud services.
Creative Cloud.
Yeah, which was really cool. So there is some support in that realm as well. But for my audience, who I've been having or for our audience, Matt, who has been asking me directly, sort of what can we do during this time? Beyond the finances, I think that this is a moment that, again, takes me back to 2008, when the reason why I was able to come out of that very successfully was because I used that time to create and to take bolder actions than I ever had before, because I never really had a need to. And this is likely going to be a huge wake-up call for a lot of people in terms of, wow, like things perhaps weren't as secure as I thought. Man, I really wish I had gotten rolling on my business earlier. Now this might be a wake-up call for people to go, oh, wow, I probably can and should step up and step into something, even though it might be different or scary or unusual or uncomfortable. But that's really where the success lies, is in those sort of situations. So what I'm telling my audience typically is to just, hey, this is your moment to start leaning into that thing that you knew you've always wanted to lean into, whether that's content creation, starting a podcast, starting a business. You don't have to pay for anything to do that. You just need to commit to trying it and to starting it. Any tips or advice from you, Matt, in regards to just what does this now make possible, as opposed to, well, what is now being taken away from me? Well, what's being added to me now? What is this making possible for us?
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And, Pat, even as we discussed kind of privately earlier today, I think this will sharpen people's ambition around what's possible. I don't necessarily know if it really adds anything new, but it makes it that much more vivid of how valuable, how amazing it is to, work toward and hopefully claim, financial independence. I have a certain theory of the case that in the wake of this, when, we're on the other side of this, that, those that have unfortunately been, more negatively impacted than us and potentially even displaced from, their day jobs right now, in some measure, maybe hopefully don't go back. And the hope there is that they have instead, using, a very difficult circumstance to lean into exactly what you're talking about and, figure out how to build an independent endeavor, again, as a freelancer, or to start that small business, with their spouse or with a business partner, right? Mm-hmm. And use this moment to really lay claim to, their own dream. And I think that's what's exciting, in part because, economic trends, technology trends have been moving in this direction for a while, and it's great. The technologies are getting easier to use. The teaching, and we're very proud. You, me, the team, everyone that's involved with SPI, proud to contribute to that education of how to build really engaged audiences and followings, and how to, run a very profitable business and to do so ethically, with great morals and great principles. So, yeah, I think what I see is true. Helping to lead the business, really run it from the inside, is like this provides more of that dream. Like it gets it closer to someone grasping it. It brings it into closer reach, because it's hard. And a lot of times people have to kind of go through, that crucible moment, to galvanize them to take that final step, right, and really go claim the thing that they want more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the big thing here is there are certain things that we just can't control. But then there, on the other side of it, are things that we can control. And so making use of the time and making decisions for your future as we come out of this is going to be really important. And I'm reminded in 2008 how depressed I was, how little things I got done in the first 3 weeks after getting laid off, and how just unproductive that was. It's important to know that it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to take some time off and just, for me, my safety blanket was just sitting in bed watching Back to the Future all day, wishing that, a time machine could actually be invented. But then, of course, after the movie ends, that's not possible. But what is possible, and what's somewhat true from that fiction movie or that fiction trilogy is, well, although we can't go into the past and change things and come back to the future to where we are now, and things will be different, we can change what we do now and what we decide to do now for the story that we're writing for our future. And so I just wanted to hopefully inspire you, because I've gone through the same thing before. I am very, very aware of how many people are feeling. I felt it too. And, hopefully you can know that you have us in your corner and the resources that we have. We've put up already some amazing resources to help, and we'll link to it in the show notes. And I'll mention a link at the end of this episode as well for where you can go to learn more about where you can get some help too, or at least get started on some stuff. And yeah, so Matt, where do you want to go next? We have a lot of other things that we could cover related to business and team and culture. Where do you want to take us?
Yeah, maybe one grounding point as a bridge here, which is, continue to work toward, Pat, exactly as you've expressed, the vision that more than likely you've had for a while. Refine it, write it down again, edit it, work on that business model, and understand that while you're doing that, obviously, pay attention to the here and now. That there's certain triaging, that likely has to happen, to some magnitude. All of us are doing that, including us. So I want to be clear that, yes, lead toward the vision and lean into that hope. That's the right thing to do. That is the future. Build that triage plan now, and that gets into some of those nuts and the bolts around cash flow management. Cut back on discretionary expenditures, variable costs that you probably can dial back on, especially for business expenses.
Yeah. Time to get lean.
Time to get lean. Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, you and I have talked about that privately. So build that bridge. That is the bridge. Build the triage plan. And I know that the word triage comes from, a military lexicon. I don't want to overly equate, an economic crisis with an actual, wartime crisis, but there is a certain triaging that should, occur within business. I think it's the responsible thing to do so that, the vision you're working toward is in fact attainable, right? And go there. And use this time, and maybe this is the bridge path for the conversation, which is continue to build relationships. There are so many other people that you can lean on for help. Lean on Pat, lean on me, lean on us as SPI, lean on ConvertKit and their creator fund, or just them in general. Our friends at Teachable are doing some similar things. The internet community at large is a wonderful resource. So don't pull back and maybe go in a hole and watch Back to the Future like Pat did, but in fact, still please express yourself and put yourself out there, because people are ready to help you, and it's those relationships that will continue to bear fruit as you in fact triage the current situation and work toward a future state where you have an independent business or career in the shape that you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, I literally watched it 40 times, just so you know, during that time. But I love that you talked about relationships. That's something that I definitely wanted to bring up because, like I was saying earlier, there are people out there who are lending a hand, who want to help. But at the same time, we all have the ability to help others too. And it's in these moments where relationships can be formed that can be long-lasting, that can be, just fruitful and a win on all sides. I'm just trying to, on the fly here, come up with a scenario that might make sense for somebody who might be in the audience, Matt. For example, if somebody was, a programmer and they wanted to develop a website for somebody, but they just don't have any clients right now. Well, they might be able to be of service to somebody who could offer service back, who maybe has a little bit of an audience that, once we come out of this developer creates a website, does it almost in a pro bono way where, you help them out. And then after we get out of this, well, that person with their new website is going to have you on their show and talk about the website design and feed new customers your way after. And I think there's a lot of opportunities similar to that can sort of happen like at this very moment.
Yeah, two thoughts come to mind. One, on the developer side, the programming side, find a open source project within whatever your programming specialty might be, and see if you can contribute to it. It's a way to, again, get your name out there more, to network within that industry. And exactly, Pat, as you've expressed, those relationships may not directly turn into a source of revenue vis-a-vis like a service contract or something, but another participating programmer might know of someone else, right? And that's the ripple effect that you can't see because it's 2 or 3 moves removed from where you are today. So yeah, absolutely, whether it's a pro bono project that, Pat, as you've said, or an open source project that you can find online and contribute to and get your name attached to, something that could maybe get sent to Product Hunt and published there and might rank well. Those are all different ways to add value, to find hope through doing the work, which never or never ceases to impress me. Just the measure of optimism from doing the work is a real thing. The second thing I was going to say, by way of example, Pat, are attorneys. I was actually speaking with our attorneys today, and they're fine, Mark and John. But even like that niche, if you will, people pull back, right? So I got some insight from them that, in the general sort of universe of startups and small business, people don't like paying lawyers when they don't have to, So there's some potential attrition there. But what did they do today? They went and amassed a wonderful assortment, a list of free resources and news and updates for small business owners that have some legal help or some of the stuff that I even mentioned around like potential loans or relief packages that are coming out from state, local, and federal agencies, and they publish it for free. And Pat, I'll pass it through to you afterward. And I've already seen multiple people take that email that came out by email from Mark and John, our general counsel team, and share it to their audiences. So already, like, this great thing that they did to help others, they're not using it as some marketing tool. They're helping others, but they're already getting a ripple effect from it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Now, we've been talking a lot about how we can potentially help online, but I also want to just be open to just the reality that, well, likely there aren't going to be a lot of social gatherings in person, at least not anytime soon here, which is something that many people, myself included, crave. Even as an introvert, I know how important it is to meet people in person, and events are absolutely being canceled left and right. And I remember being at Social Media Marketing World, kind of like the last big event to happen before all this stuff happened. And sort of the last day of the event was when there was starting to be a lot of news about travel and cancellations. And a friend of mine came up to me and was like, dude, he was looking he was not looking good. And he came up to me and showed me his phone. He said, hey, I woke up this morning and 5 of my talks this year just got canceled in the last hour. And he's a $20,000, $25,000 keynote speaker. So he lost over $100,000 in just like a minute. It was tough. And I was like, wow, this is, it's just like, I don't know. I had no words for him during that time, except I'm here for you. But yeah, events are going to be a thing that are not going to happen anytime soon. We in SPI Media and on the Flindustry side of things, we're dealing with an event of our own that we normally have. By normal, I meant last year was the first year. But FlynnCon is something that is being affected by this, obviously. And we've had to make some decisions related to that. If you haven't heard yet, the event is canceled. And we'll be refunding or offering other options for people. We're still working with the hotel to determine, okay, can we keep the deposit there and hold it for 2021 perhaps, and maybe do FlynnCon then, and we'll see what happens. We're still literally right in the middle of planning communication with the attendees. So if you haven't heard yet, you'll hear very soon if you did get a ticket. And I was bummed. I was very upset because I was really looking forward to it. We had keynote speakers that I was really excited to announce and have join us. I'm really bummed. I'm really bummed about that. So we're currently working with or trying to work out with a hotel related to all that stuff. And it's just providing a lot of anxiety on my end. But it's just the reality of the situation now. So Matt, to you, for those who were going to be putting on their own events or workshops, what might they be able to do instead? And then for those of us who want to, who enjoy going to those things, like what other options do we have for just human connection?
Yeah, it's an active conversation, as you're alluding to. For us, it's near and dear to us. It impacts both businesses, the Flint Industries business, the SPI Media business, and all of its positive ripple effects. We're considering a virtual summit of sorts. I think great advice that I have heard. I think, Pat, you've heard something similar, is to not attempt to perfectly replicate the magic of an in-person experience online, because you can't really do that. So we're trying to get creative again, kind of go back into the workshop and come up with something really strong, and that's tailored to an online gathering space. But we want to come together as a community, and we should in time of crisis. So I think we and our team feels that sense of obligation to figuring out a path forward there, and not just leave people wanting. So I'm optimistic, while decisions are TBD still, that we can come up with a virtual concept that can add a lot of value, that can align with people's interests. So I guess there's that. Second, I guess apart from any one particular virtual event at some measure of scale, if there are masterminds that you are a part of, or that you've heard about, or maybe haven't yet joined, I know of some communities, at least some here in the local community here in Columbus, of creators, a lot of independents, a lot of freelancers, doing a lot of like virtual happy hours, just like 7, 10, 12 people getting on a Zoom call, at 5 o'clock, and not to promote too much drinking, but like they literally, I joined one of them. It's like, hey, like go get something out of your own closet. Let's just get on and talk, and like let's virtually clink a glass. And I think doing that stuff, it might sound silly, I don't know, but it's a relief. Do that for an hour, even just a half hour. So kind of get creative, with that sort of stuff. And I guess to the degree that you're comfortable, number 3, it's not per se entrepreneurial in nature, but go to a park, or just get outside, take a walk with your family, walk with some friends. If you're, practice probably, proper social distancing etiquette, if you're, super sensitive to that. But yeah, I think getting creative, connecting with people, leveraging social channels, and doing so in a hopeful, optimistic way, not contributing to the chaos and the uncertainty, if you can avoid it, on Twitter or on Instagram or on Facebook, is important.
Yeah, for me, I mean, we've been connecting with our friends via FaceTime, and that's been really, really great. Although it's not in person, it's pretty close, as opposed to what I know a lot of people are doing is just staying connected with text messages, and those are great too. But there's just something about seeing a person and feeling comfortable with, in that situation. And I would recommend, FaceTime or Zoom or anything like that, Skype communication, just to kind of, we're going to be hunkered down for a long time, I feel. And I think it's going to drive a lot of people insane. And so I think that the more that we can sort of create some normalcy in our lives and connect with others in that way, the better. And I think that's what a lot of people crave. And when it comes to content creation, a lot of people are wondering, well, how does this affect the content that I come out with? Like, should I address the, virus in every article and be sensitive to that? And yes, obviously you should be sensitive to it. You don't want to be tone deaf, but at the same time, your audience craves normalcy. People are still buying things. People are still consuming content. People are still learning. In fact, they're learning more than ever at this moment. So this is why we're starting to see bumps in our traffic, in podcast listens and downloads, and there's opportunities there for sure to continue to show up. And that's the biggest lesson here, and the biggest takeaway is I think that you still need to show up, and you could show up even more, both as a business owner, but also as a member of your family. I think that this is an opportunity, I think, for many to now that we're hunkered down in our homes with our family to, perhaps before this all happened, we were kind of doing our own thing and potentially letting time pass by without realizing that we have a lot of special things very close to us. And my family and I, although we are all at home most of the time anyway, we're spending even more time at home. And I know a lot of people who have told me specifically that they are using this time to get closer to their families as well. So there are some good that can come out of this, and I hope that you can all see that. Not saying that we just have to forget all the craziness, but there are things to be thankful for during this time as well.
Completely. It's a keep calm and carry on, mindset. And I realize that's probably a very tired cliche, but it's probably never more true, at least in my lifetime, than now. And yeah, lean into the optimism when you can. Lean into staying healthy, into relationships. A lot of these big things that we've glanced on today, and tied them together. I know that for me as a still young parent, I have a 1-year-old that just turned 1 on Friday. So to celebrate her first birthday in the midst of all this, thank you, has been a little bit trippy to say the least. But then with both sets of grandparents, so like you mentioned FaceTime, and we FaceTime with both sets of grandparents every day. And it's made the biggest difference. And I know it's the subject, Pat, of another podcast episode you're putting together, but it's a whole other kind of layer to this. Probably a healthy percentage of the people listening to this are in fact parents, and being at home or trying to change their work from home situations if their spouse or partners are at home, and dealing with potentially babies or small kids or teenagers. A lot of colleges are closed too. It's like, man, that's a whole other layer of complexity here.
Yeah, and that episode's going to be coming out very soon. After this episode comes out, it'll be about mostly new parents, and this was planned for a while, and it just so happens it might be even more useful now than ever. So the team and I are working on that. Matt, anything else we want to finish up with? I'm sure that you and I are going to get on a call again and even bring some other team members on for these sort of more emergency type podcast episodes related to what's happening right now. Because honestly, we've been doing so well with the content creation that we're, recorded through midway of the year already. But I think that it's important that we come up and show up in real time like this for people too. And we'll likely be doing more of that here, whether it's on this podcast, and there's even discussion within the group internally of creating sort of auxiliary podcasts in our network for this purpose as well, outside of SPI, but within the same realm for you too. So let's do this again.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to. Anytime.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
You too.
All right. I hope that was helpful. If you want to get some more resources from us, you can actually go to smartpassiveincome.com/toolkit. One more time, smartpassiveincome.com/toolkit. When you arrive there, you'll see a number of things, including some articles that have been written specifically for this moment in time about staying sane while working from home, a lot of mental related things for your mental health. In addition, we are offering some stuff for free. My course, Smart From Scratch, we are, as long as this thing is happening, we are offering Smart From Scratch for free, which is my online course, as well as a course called Build Your Own Brand to help you start your business, start your website. This is a perfect time to, like I said in this conversation with Matt, to lean into content creation. And there's always going to be more things added onto this page as well. Currently, a couple books are there for free for you too, and there are some support and assistance from some of our friends and people we have relationships with, like Buzzsprout and ConvertKit. The ConvertKit, for example, created a creator fund offering some additional cash for those who might need it through an application process, and they have some information about that there. Buzzsprout creating some free podcasting accounts for schools, governments, and NGOs. And just more resources being added all the time. So if you want to check that out one more time, smartpassiveincome.com/toolkit, and more resources are being added to that as they come in. Connect with me on Twitter and on Instagram at Pat Flynn. Let me know what else we can do to serve you here on Team SPI. And also, as long as this is going on, I'm also going live on YouTube every day at 8 a.m. in the morning for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's holding me accountable to just waking up and starting the day, motivated to help and serve others. So 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, every day on YouTube. You can find me at youtube.com/Pat Flynn. Hit the bell notification icon there so you get notified every morning. And in addition, I just want to be there to serve. I mean, as hopefully you can tell, we are in a good position to be able to help others, and that's why we're here. So good luck and all the best. The stuff's changing every day, it seems, and we're going to continue to come back and continue to serve here for you. Lastly, if you know anybody who might benefit from this particular episode, all you have to do is actually, if you just share it you can go and actually share that page, smartpassiveincome.com/toolkit. Likely we'll find a way to embed this podcast episode there too, and anything else that we might come up with as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate you, and wishing you all the best. Peace. Look, I get it. You want to grow your business, but trying to sell to hundreds or even thousands of people gets very exhausting very fast. But what if you could sell at scale with a simple, powerful quiz? ScoreApp helps you sell to more people without adding more to your plate. You build a quiz or assessment that your audience actually wants to take. Then they answer a few quick questions and get a personalized result right away. It shows them where they're at and what they need to do next and how you can help. And you build huge amounts of trust before you make even a single offer. No hard sell, no chasing leads, just value at scale. Get 50% off the first 3 months using the discount code SPI. All you have to do is just head to scoreapp.com/SPI. Again, that's scoreapp.com/SPI. More people dream about building their own business and being their own boss rather than retiring early. But a majority of them never even take the first steps to register the business. Why? Because starting a business can feel overwhelming. With legal forms, paperwork, finances, it's a lot. And that's where Taylor Brands comes in. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal and business assets separate from day one. And from there, you can get access to everything you need to get off the ground, from legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, our listeners get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. Just head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands.